Let's get into it. Episode 672, Soul Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. Now, the left is having somewhat of a meltdown, but an organized meltdown towards who? Well, none other than Donald Trump. Now, this is how I stumbled onto this whole amazing thing. This amazing thing I'm talking about is called the Stop Trump Summit. I had no idea this was a thing. They did it about 3 days ago. Robert De Niro released a statement calling Trump evil. I wanted to hear it so I could bring it to you guys. And all of a sudden I found out about this whole Stop Trump thing. So basically it's panels, speeches. Al Sharpton's there talking about Trump's childhood. The guy who helped write Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, is there talking about how abused Trump was. It's so wild that all of these people got together, at least 50 people got together and decided we have to have a 7.5 hour summit about Trump and how he needs to never be in office. Now, I got some clips here. I got James Raskin, who is a congressman. We got Michael Cohen, who is framed as Trump's fixer. We have Tony Schwartz, who is the gentleman that helped Donald Trump write The Art of the Deal. And then we have a passionate statement read by someone else, but written by Robert De Niro. Very, very interesting, guys. Let's get right into this. Let's start with Raskin first. This is a real organized meltdown towards Donald Trump. Let's get into this.
Solidarity to everybody. We meet at a time, of course, of terrible violence, fanaticism, anti-Semitism, irrationalism, authoritarian and fanatical impulses unleashed all over the world. It's a time when we need maximum wisdom and prudence and insight from our political leadership. And of course, in Donald Trump, the constantly looming threat of the exact opposite of all of that, the embodiment of all of the authoritarianism and irrationalism that have now overrun public life. I wanted to be clear that this is not a partisan matter. We're looking for people of good faith and committed to constitutional democracy across the political spectrum. I thought I would begin actually on a bipartisan note by invoking our last great Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, who spoke of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We, of course, didn't begin that way. We started as a slave republic of white male property owners over the age of 21, but it has been through successive waves of social and political and moral and constitutional struggle that we have opened America up to something far closer to approximating Lincoln's beautiful ideal. We have to
bipartisan. Just to start it off, this super bipartisan. Listen, this has nothing to do with politics or anything. We're just trying to keep one political opponent completely out of office, and we're trying to convince hundreds of millions of people to follow in our steps. That's all we're doing here. This is not a bipartisan thing. If you can tell, I quoted Abraham Lincoln. So obviously I have no, it's not about left or right. Come on. I quoted Abraham Lincoln. Come on. Look at me. I have no stake in the game here. I just want to see one man who is a Republican to never be in office ever at any cost. That's all. Bipartisan. That's the meaning of bipartisan nowadays, just so you know. Let's move on to the next clip. This woman, she's hosting someone named Tony Schwartz, a gentleman who was co-writing The Art of the Deal. Just listen to the first thing she says, what she wants out of this little exchange between her and Tony. Wild. Here, let's check this out.
Time with Trump before he was a guarded person, before he had people telling him whatever it is they tell him these days. And I was hoping, since we are at a Stop Trump Summit, whether you could give us some insights to what provokes the guy, what drives him nuts, what kind of strategies candidates could use to help him make a mistake.
what kind of strategies candidates can use to help have him make a mistake. What? What? We're getting awfully close to interference. I'm just saying. You know, the candidates aren't there, but she just wants this guy to tell us anything that he can in order for us to take this information and bring it to candidates so they can strategize, so he can make some mistakes. This is so wild. Such an organized meltdown. You know? Like they're not having a fit. They're not on the ground like stomping and like batting their hands on the ground like a child. They're not throwing tantrums. They're like, we are so melted down that let's just all of us get together and just figure out how to keep this guy out of office. And instead of doing it in the shadows like we usually do, let's do it on stage. I'm tired of hiding this. But it's completely bipartisan. This is just a bunch of people in good faith, you know? So amazing. So amazing. Let's play some of this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the essence of Trump, as actually is true for most of us, is what's going on inside him and what happened to him, as Oprah would say, what happened. And what happened is not a pretty story. I think he grew up in an incredibly abusive, and I'm not excusing him for anything in saying this, but he had a very abusive father. He had a very distant mother, and he grew up with, a sense of, let me say, a morbid fear about his own sense of weakness and inadequacy. And I think that has persisted forever. And I think the whole drift of his career has been about, like any addict, he's looking outside himself for something that's missing inside himself. In his case, it's power and money. Money is power, and power comes from money. And so in answer to your question, I think you saw the dead heart of where Trump is most vulnerable in the trial last week. I'm with Michael Cohen on this, that if you looked at him, I don't think I've almost ever seen him so uncomfortable and so enraged about something that is so much less consequential than the other things he's facing right now criminally. And it's because he makes this, I call it an attribution error. He makes this attribution error that I think sort of is at the heart of the capitalism we're living with right now, which is more money equals more value. And, if what you're doing is you're trying to get a sense of value from outside yourself or from the amount of dollars you have or the power you have, you keep upping the ante, and there's not, you have to keep upping the ante as he does, because you're feeling emptier and emptier despite your efforts.
Do you think this particular trial, this sense of his, the 10,000 square foot apartment that he said was 30,000 square feet, do you think all of this will affect him in any way that will be relevant?
Listen, I buy what a number of the other panelists have said today, which is that as far as I'm concerned, the United States and democracy are over. I mean, not the United States is over, but democracy is dead if Trump is reelected. It would be literally the worst thing imaginable that could happen. There's nothing about it that I think would be comforting to anybody. I mean, the need to defeat Donald Trump is so overwhelming because this one crazy sociopath, and he is a sociopath. People call him a narcissist, yes, but a sociopath is someone who has no conscience. Psychopath, sociopath, they're interchangeable. And he is a person without conscience. So what he's going to do, left free to have, to be doing whatever he feels like doing, it will be I don't even want to think about it, but it's very clear that we need to mobilize. Certainly why I'm here.
We need to mobilize. This is very scary talk that these people are having, so out in the open, so brazenly. We need to mobilize. A democracy is done. It's so odd. It sounds like people who have started like a communist regime are like being confronted with like actual democracy, and they're like, everything's over. Like this is the worst thing that could happen to us, guys. We need this to stop right away. And I'm not saying that's what they are. You know, they're just left-leaning people for the most part. You know, so they obviously don't like Trump. That doesn't make them communists or socialists. They could be. I don't know. Seems like it. They're mobilizing very, I want to say viciously, but it's not even vicious because it's like this weird, watered down conference about stopping Trump. Literally talking about like, oh, well, if you know, like he comes from this family and his mom, and like it's almost like this is a class on Trump. It's like they're treating him like a historical character already. He's going to be in years to come, but not yet. This is so wild. Just the talk of we need to mobilize. That's why I'm here. Just this woman here, you know, referencing, you know, he said his house was this size, but it was actually this size. That's who we're dealing with here. It's really, really interesting. It shows just how worried they are. So when you hear reports of like, oh, Trump isn't that far ahead and this and that, this shows a completely different side. This is worry, you know, I'm worried. I'm very worried right now. I'm so worried that we need to get together and we all need to talk as bad as we possibly can about one man. We need to do it. But that was, this is Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, the fixer for Trump. He has some stuff to say here. Let's go.
You mentioned that he basically gets, 5 hours sleep a night. The White House physician and his other physician, who said he's the healthiest man I ever met, and then
right, and he's 6'3", 215.
Right. Ronnie, and then Ronnie, what's his name, is now in Congress.
Did I tell you that I play for the Knicks? I'm the center. This year they have a chance.
But a guy at his age who sleeps 5 hours a night, who eats McDonald's all the time, is there any indication that maybe he isn't in good health? Do you know what his blood pressure is or anything like that?
So I've never taken his blood pressure.
Do you know what his blood pressure is? These people are getting to the point where they want to know what his blood pressure is. Is it a little high? If we possibly get past Secret Service and we scare him, we do like a jump scare with a monster or something, you think we could just, is his heart okay? I don't know. Which McDonald's does he go to? Is there any way we could get in the back there? And what are these? And it's 7 hours of this. 7 hours. I'm not even going to show you the Al Sharpton speech. Al Sharpton does a whole speech talking about where Trump's father came from and who Trump looked up to when he was a kid. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. They spent money on this. They spent money. Look at where they are. They had to spend at least $100,000 doing this, probably more. I wonder who paid for it. I really wonder that. But let's hear his answer really quick.
I've unfortunately seen him in his underwear and tighty whities. I can tell you he is not the healthiest president. I mean, did everybody see Donald sitting there the other day and talking about how he's in better shape than Joe Biden? What's with Joe Biden walking around on the beach without his shirt? Because that's, not supposed to happen. You walk around in a suit with a red tie, right? For Donald, the whole thing is just, again, it's always a comparison compared to somebody. He clearly looks in the mirror and realizes that he's morbidly obese, that he's not the same body shape as Tom Brady, who happens to be 6'3" and 215, right? The greatest of all time. So when he sees Joe Biden, who rides a bicycle and he rides shotgun in a golf cart, obviously there's a lot that's going on in the back of this man's mind.
This is incredible. So they're talking about him being fat. Like, it's getting to that point. It's like, let's not, foreign policy, whatever, push it aside. Economy, inflation, what does he look like in his underwear? Can you tell us? Tell us it was gross. Can you give us that soundbite? Tighty whities, was that it? That's it? Okay. In a golf cart, you say. These are the... It's a whole conference. It's a whole conference. It's a whole conference of this. And now we're going to get to the actual speech. Robert De Niro, who couldn't be there because he's Robert De Niro, and he's like, I'm not coming. I'll write you a thing. You can read it. I'm Robert De Niro. I'm not showing up. I'll show up at the Oscars and say something, but I'm not coming to a Stop Trump rally of sorts. And you got to think, this is a theater. And I can tell. I have friends who have performed in theaters. This is a theater, maybe 500 seats. This is, if people paid for this, this is so wild. All right, here you go. Robert De Niro is talking through this guy.
With Miles. I first encountered Miles when he was still anonymous. Through his writing, commentary, and books, I've come to admire his intelligence and courage. I'm grateful that he's agreed to be my voice today. Thank you, Bob. I am with you in spirit. I am watching. This is an important conversation. What the New Republic is doing here, this Stop Trump Summit, what you all are doing here today, can help determine our future. I've spent a lot of time studying bad men. I've examined their characteristics, their mannerisms, the utter banality of their cruelty. Yet there's something different about Donald Trump. When I look at him, I don't see a bad man. Truly, I see an evil one. Over the years, I've met gangsters here and there. This guy tries to be one, but he can't quite pull it off. There's such a thing as honor among thieves. Yes, even criminals usually have a sense of right and wrong. Whether they do the right thing or not is a different story. But they have a moral code, however warped. Donald Trump does not. He's a wannabe tough guy with no morals or ethics, no sense of right or wrong, no regard for anyone but himself, not the people he was supposed to lead and protect, not the people he does business with, not the people who follow him blindly and loyally, not even the people who consider themselves his friends. He has contempt for all of them. We New Yorkers got to know him over the years that he poisoned the atmosphere and littered our city with monuments to his ego. We knew firsthand that this was someone who should never be considered for leadership. We tried to warn the world in 2016. The repercussions of his turbulent presidency divided America and rattled New York City beyond imagination. Remember how we were jolted by crisis in early 2020 as a virus swept the world. We lived with Donald Trump's bombastic behavior every day on the national stage, and we suffered as we saw our neighbors piling up in body bags. The man who was supposed to protect this country put it in peril because of his recklessness and impulsiveness. It was like an abusive father ruling the family by fear and violent behavior. That was the consequence of New York's warning getting ignored. Next time, we know it will be worse. Make no mistake, the twice impeached, four-time indicted Donald Trump is still a fool, but we can't let our fellow Americans write him off like one. Evil thrives in the shadow of dismissive mockery, which is why we must take the danger of Donald Trump very seriously. So today we issue another warning from this place where Abraham Lincoln spoke, right here in the beating heart of New York, to the rest of America. This is our last chance. Democracy won't survive the return of a wannabe dictator, and it won't overcome evil if we are divided. So what do we do about it? I know I'm preaching to the choir here. What we're doing today is valuable, but we have to take today into tomorrow, take it outside these walls We have to reach out to half of the country who have ignored the hazards of Trump and, for whatever reason, support elevating him back into the White House. They're not stupid, and we must not condemn them for making a stupid choice. Our future doesn't just depend on us. It does depend on them. Let's reach out to Trump's followers with respect. Let's not talk about democracy. Democracy may be our holy grail, but to others, it's just a word, a concept, and their embrace of Trump, they've already turned their backs on it.
This is incredible. There's only a few more seconds, but just that right there, just to say that people who want to vote for Trump are turning their back on democracy is so wild. I don't even know what to call this. I don't even know if to call it brainwashing or I have no idea. I have no idea what to call it. This is so beyond. It's like they're just what Trump is bringing is democracy. And they're just saying, no, it'd be the end of democracy. And what do they think he's going to do? Do they think that he's going to have political rivals and indict them? Does he think that he's gonna grab on to his Republican Party so tightly that they're gonna go out and try to impeach political rivals? Like, what do they think he's actually gonna do? He's already shown what he will do as president. He was not tyrannical. He wasn't a tyrannical person. If he was tyrannical, he'd still be in office. He would have been like, nah, I don't think so. I'm staying right here. Prove it. Take me out. Move me. I dare you. He would have done that. But he left. And the thing about democracy is dependent on the losers. It really is. It's like a fight. You know, if you beat someone in a fight and they say, okay, you win, you won, fair and square, all right, good job, shake hands, bye. But if that person who lost the fight comes back at 3 a.m. to your house and tries to do something to you, that's not fair. The fair fight, democracy is dependent on the losers. The losers are an intricate part. It's not just the winners. He's already shown what he will do if he loses. He'll complain. He'll want proof. He'll go out and try to get the proof. He'll feel very right in how he feels things came to a close. But he's still left. He's still running again. Even though people can't get him to say that he lost, he's running again. The admission is there. Maybe a sore loser. You could say that. But still running again, that acknowledges that he knows I have to get back into office. I am out of office. If you're out of office, then you lost the election. He understands that. He just doesn't want to say it. He doesn't want to give them the satisfaction. But to act like people who are voting want Trump in office are making a stupid decision, and then in the same breath saying, and you have to give them respect for their stupid decision, is so crazy. And that's the thing with these people, these left-leaning people. They can't help but disrespect people who are on the other side. They just can't help it. Approach them with respect with their stupid decision and how they're turning their back on democracy. Like, this is so wild. So wild. And then to frame him as an evil man because you've played a bunch of mobsters and gangsters in movies. You're saying that you understand evil men. You're an actor. You barely understand people as it goes. You've been a millionaire for decades. You've been a multi-millionaire for decades. And that's just me. That's me. I have a little bit of bias because I've been around actors. I've seen how they've treated me and people in my position lower than. I've seen the hierarchy in film and television. So for me to sit back and act like as if Robert De Niro's some regular guy, from what I've seen, especially for what I've seen and I've experienced in film and television and what I've seen with Trump, he seems more down to earth than Robert De Niro. Straight up, he does. And I've heard things about Robert De Niro in the film industry of how he likes to be treated and how he treats people. Literally, people who have direct contact with him. So, I don't know. Let me just play a few more seconds. Let's go.
Let's talk about right and wrong. Let's talk about humanity. Let's talk about kindness, security for our world, safety for our families, decency. Let's welcome them back. We won't get them all, but we can get enough to end the nightmare of Trump and fulfill the mission of this Stop Trump Summit. Thank you.
Just ridiculous. Stop Trump Summit, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen it here first. Never have I seen anything like this. This just makes me worry. Am I frozen here? There I am. This just makes me worry even more, because this shows, again, it shows a little bit of we're really not ready to give up power. And again, these people aren't connected directly to any candidate, but they are clearly directed to a party. And they're doing something that the party can't be seen doing. There's many civil organizations that do this, you know, and you've seen them at work throughout the past 5 years. You've seen them at work. They do things that a political party can never be seen doing. You know, I'll leave it at that. And this is no different. Having a Stop Trump rally or a summit is very close to interfering in what's going on today. It's not quite, it's just people having discussion and saying things, but they are trying to influence heavy. Just a silly event. I shouldn't even have this somber tone. This is ridiculous. This is not doing anything for anybody. This was basically just a bunch of people who agreed, probably some people that were paid to fill seats, and they're all just talking about Trump like as if there is like a Trump tower in each one of their heads, and Trump just gets to live there rent free. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, guys, this is the end of the episode. If you haven't liked already, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I am out. Oh, I am CoachColin.com. Get yours now. Public enemy number 1. Let's go.